Hello and welcome back to the Rope Access and Climbing Podcast, YouTube edition. I'm your host, Mikey Stevenson, and today I'm going to be diving into episode number 7 of Acceptable or Unacceptable. If this is your first time here, please make sure to subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. So stay tuned. Step into your harness and get ready for a podcast about the vertical world. All right, well, just wanted to say before we dive into this episode that a little bit of a disclaimer here. There is 1,001 ways on how everything can be rigged. We operate in a very large gray area and a very little, black and white area, okay? So, something that you may see here is not necessarily something that you've seen or you've done before. Maybe not the most common practice, but it doesn't mean that it's not acceptable. Now, the difference here on acceptable or unacceptable is really at the end of the day, is it safe or is it not safe? All right, so diving into today's episode, I got a blank canvas here, but the conversation here is that we're creating a pull through from the stationary position up top on the structure, and then we're going to be using a rope and a edge mat here. Okay, so this is a Chafe Pro edge mat. You've definitely seen these out there on social media. Definitely check them out. I've been using them for a number of months here. Obviously, this is a prototype version, but not a whole lot has changed in their production version since they've been released. All right. So this is what we're going to be using. I'm going to just toss this over the edge here. All right. So we got that there. You can see kind of right there. All right. Now, all I'm doing here is I'm going to flake this rope out quickly. And my goal here is literally just to, make this pull through and, talk about that setup here, okay? All right, so we got kind of, set our ropes up where they need to be. Obviously, make sure that your ropes are long enough to make it to the ground. But what we got going on here is I'm going to tie 2 alpine butterflies independently here. So 1 alpine here, 1 alpine here. All right. Okay, cool. So now what we got going on here is just a basic setup. All right. So on your day-to-day setup, it doesn't get any more basic than a pull through that looks like this, right? Okay. Now that would be, your traditional everyday pull through. In some cases, what we got going on here, if you pull this pull through here, you may potentially cross-load these carabiners on whatever that structure is. So if it's a circular structure, or it's, a bolt or something like that where you don't have a large radius, you potentially run into that situation cross-loading these carabiners. Obviously not something that we want. So what I'm going to do to counteract that is I'm going to add 2 ducks. Now the thing here I'm going to take the duck, has an arrow. All right, I'm going to invert this because I'm going downwards. All right, so I'm going to just invert this duck. There we go. Take this carabiner off, clip it in there. Great. Take the second duck, invert it as well. Take that off, clip that on there. Now, make sure your carabiners are locked. Obviously, we want to double check that. Now here, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull this down. It doesn't go anywhere, okay? I'm pulling this. And inadvertently, what I'm doing here is pulling the duck in line with the way it's supposed to be loaded, just inverted, okay? Now, if I need to shorten this up, I can just go like this and like that, okay? Now, that is the pull through. So all I've done is just made a bigger loop and fixed it in place with these here ducks. Now, to retrieve this, all I do is just pull this here, and those ducks do trail down. Now, big point that everybody pointed out here is the edge mat. Is it gonna come down? Is it not gonna come down? Chances are it's probably gonna get stuck there. So if you do something like this, obviously, you know, make sure whatever you're doing is you are connecting that to it somehow, okay? So if you needed to, all it would take would be something like that, okay? That's all it would take to make that connection, to make sure that this rope protector came down when you pulled it, okay? Now, keep in mind here, we do have one mat here. You know, we haven't doubled it up. It is soft rope protector, but based on, you know, testing and based on, you know, just the wear and tear of it, there's not going to be any wear on this. It is a pretty stationary system. So once you load it, it is what it is. It's going to stay there. There's not going to be a whole lot of chafing or a whole lot of moving around. Okay, cool. Now, one thing that a couple of you mentioned in the comments I posted on Facebook about this was you're not okay with this because if you have a mainline failure, you will shock load this. Well, yes, you would, just like any other system. Okay, you're talking about it's not far enough down, not allowing for you know, the slippage. Well, that's really based on how much weight you anticipate being on here. Obviously, if I wanted to, I could bring this down as far as I wanted and add, you know, I got, you know, a good 5 feet of rope in the system before I would have to worry about this jamming up into there. Okay, so in conclusion to all of those faults that, you know, some of you have seen, at the end of the day, this is still 100% acceptable. All right, this is definitely my go-to method when I'm teaching people as well. So when we're talking about pull-throughs, you know, I'm showing them systems like this using the ducks because this is becoming one of those systems that is more interchangeable and a system that allows you to use it in more areas than just, you know, your standard easygoing, you know, setup. So, you know, we went from the basic system, transitioned over to this system here, introducing the ducks to kind of give you an idea of how to set this up. But anytime you're introducing a new system, make sure that you are working with somebody that's done this before and definitely can spend that time to mentor you through the process so you are doing it properly. Now, if you want to introduce these to steel slings, absolutely you can do that and it works just fine as well. There is a little bit of a tricky setup there if you are, you know, setting this system up from the ground. So please, please, please use a lot of caution there. But at the end of the day, this system is what we're talking about and it is acceptable. And going back over that, why are we going to rig this up? We're going to rig this up to avoid cross-loading the carabiners on, you know, awkward, weird shapes or small shapes, piping, stuff like that. And that's giving us that ability to kind of create a larger circumference around the structure and giving us a little bit of additional play there.
All right, well, thank you very much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you got something out of this. Obviously, another episode here of an acceptable practice. So definitely, you know, feel free to, you know, talk to your level 3s, talk to your technical authorities about, you know, using something like this in your daily operations. Obviously here something different would be that it is one edge mat instead of, you know, 2 rope protectors or 2 steel slings. But this is a very good alternative option out there when you are, you know, encountering, you know, smaller objects to kind of get around. All right. Well, if you like this episode, please make sure to hit the like button, comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this episode or any other episodes and things that you would like to see in the new year. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time.